All right. What's up, everyone? Super excited to be recording this interview today. I got Abigail and James from Texas Canine Training, and they've been working with us for about 60 days now. And so they're just going to share a little bit about their experience, tell everyone about kind of who they are as trainers and what it's been like working with us. So, guys, why don't you just kind of kick it off? Tell everyone a little bit about yourselves.
Okay, so I basically started my business in August of last year. I had been doing private lessons kind of on the side, working another job, side hustle kind of thing. I'd worked for a lot of other dog training companies that just weren't the right fit. So I decided to launch my own business, and most of it was word of mouth. It was really slow. It was very stressful trying to get clients and just promising and hoping and posting on Facebook and being like, hey, we can do this. Like, I'll work with any dog. It's fine.
Yeah.
And very much a struggle. And then I moved in with him, and it was a little bit less of a struggle because, he's got income, I've got income. So there was less pressure, but it was still just.
Yeah, like it was a good supplemental income at that point, but it wasn't enough to like keep us afloat by itself.
Yeah. So it was still stressful. It was still slow. And I don't even know why we ended up reaching out to you. I'd been following your little Facebook group for a while, right? Like I'd just been like, that's interesting, but
yeah, you probably got a couple DMs from me, and you just finally were like, okay, I'll actually respond to this guy after the fourth time he reached out to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, your videos looked great too. So I was like, okay, maybe.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, isn't it? Because like you've seen some videos, and like now here we are, like a couple of months later, like recording one of these videos. So it's pretty amazing how quickly that can happen. But yeah, I mean, before we even go into everything, I just wanted to kind of celebrate this with you guys because James, like you officially just left your job and are now able to go full time in the business. So yeah, man, congrats on that. And so do me a favor, tell me a little bit about that. Like, was that something that you thought was going to be like a much longer process, or did you think it was going to happen? Like, what was the timeline you were originally looking at?
Like I was saying, before marketing and such, it was a good like supplemental income. Like it was a good little side hustle, but not enough to keep us afloat by itself. And almost immediately after marketing, I think as soon as that ad started going off, we were getting back-to-back evaluations, constant sales. And we were planning on it probably being about 6 to 8 months before it ever got to a point. In that first month, we realized that, hey, this could actually work, like to where this could be full-time income. And we were originally planning for 6 to 8 months or so before it got big enough for me to join. And then, month 2 blew up just as much as month 1. And it came a lot faster than we thought. Yeah, it's more than possible.
Yeah. It's amazing how that works, isn't it? Like sometimes you think like, oh, that's a 6-month plan, or that's like a year-long plan or something like that. And then all of a sudden, like in 30 days, the opportunity just kind of presents itself to you and you can just kind of jump on it. So Abigail, do me a favor, tell me a little bit about like your background that was a dog trainer. Like how'd you get started, and kind of like up and like how you got to the point where we're at now.
Yeah, so the initial reason I became a dog trainer is because I'd always wanted a German Shepherd, and I got him, and he was a psychopath. He was dog aggressive at anything that moved too much, right? Like he would 100% kill something. And somebody just happened to kind of throw out, they're like, hey, like he's so mean, he should be a police canine. And I was like, I mean, okay, like sounds good, right? So I looked up a dog training school, ended up going to North Carolina for 6 months for an in-depth program.
Nice.
And interned there for a while, and it still wasn't really a fit, just because, everyone forms their own opinions about dog training. Like there are things I just won't do in dog training that others will. There are things they'll do that I won't, right? So it's just, kind of conflict in that way. And I kind of decided, okay, if I'm going to be dog training and feel good about it, I have to do it my way. Like I can't be following these other people who are making money for them while I'm dirt poor, have nothing, can't make a float, right? Or especially like internships where you don't get paid. Then I went to a job in Arkansas, which was okay. I did learn a lot, but it wasn't mine. Like if I'm going to be working my butt off for something, it's going to be mine. If I'm going to be dirt cheap and dirt poor, it's going to be mine. So like if I'm going to be doing all this work and working 14-hour days, 7 days a week, it better be for something that's mine, that I can control, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I started my own business as kind of a side hustle, just doing private lessons, just to like scratch that itch, right? Of like, I want to help people. I know there are aggressive dogs here. Like I want to help with that. And then it officially took off when I moved, because my dad started having health issues and he wanted me to pursue dog training. So he was like, hey, come move in with us. It can be just that supplemental kind of side hustle income, because my mom needed help because, my dad was no longer able to work. So I was like, okay. So I moved out there. So it's been rough because my location of training has changed a lot. Like each of these locations was like 2 hours from each other. You couldn't really keep up both. So that kind of kicked my clients a little bit. And so then I finally went full time, and that's pretty much where we're at now. Is then I found my husband, and I pretty much, so
the rest is history. Yeah. Awesome. And so do me a favor, kind of, so we started working together about 60 days ago, right? And so do me a favor, walk me through kind of like what your business was like before we started working together. And let's just start there, and then we could definitely talk about like what your experience has been like and stuff like that. But yeah, just kind of like, how were you getting clients before? How was your sales process? All that stuff.
Yeah. So I definitely was bad at sales, just because I was very much just like the dorky dog person who was just like, so these are my prices. But it was a little too cheap than it should have been. And I wasn't good at kind of like following the process to get people on location so I could talk to them, because my biggest thing was just like, oh, here's my prices, right? This is what I can do. But how are they going to know that over the phone when they haven't seen the dogs that I train? They haven't seen me, stuff like that. Right.
Right. Exactly.
Basically from August to January, we made a total of maybe 13 or 14,000 before meeting y'all. Right.
Man,
like
it was kind of hard because, we're traveling an hour somewhere to meet somebody in one of the locations she used to live, and then 2 hours to travel to the other one.
I mean, and for private lessons. So I'm getting like $100 plus gas if I'm lucky to drive out here for these people. So it was rough.
It is rough.
Then pretty much from basically November to January, I wasn't getting paid at all. We were relying completely on him. I hadn't had a client, whether it be Christmas or just, again, I had moved. So it was kind of just like my client base.
I think the last client was like December and early January.
Yeah. So it was kind of just like, I didn't really get paid at all, except for literally paying like the business taxes, paying somebody to do the taxes, because I didn't even understand that either.
You're not keeping any of the money.
Yeah,
exactly. And so, like, what is the past like couple months we've been working together? So what's the number so far that you guys are at, like, since we started working together?
Yeah. So since we started working together, there was like that week of processing where y'all were building like the little site platform and setting me up, right? So it was kind of quiet. We were kind of like, oh crap, like what have we done, right? And then after that week, all of a sudden the phone would not stop ringing, the emails would not stop coming,
and they haven't stopped yet.
Yeah, like it was to the point that like half the time he would have to like throw my phone across the room and be like, okay, you have to stop, it's like 8 p.m, we're watching a movie, quit. Right,
this is our time.
Exactly.
I would have basically like 8 a.m. to probably 7 p.m. like back-to-back evaluations. And then I'm like, oh crap, I've got board and trains, like, and then you have to kind of work from there. So it was a balance at first. Right now, since finding y'all, we're at like 18 or 19,000.
Wow, that's incredible.
And that's with money we have in hand from the client. We still have some that have put down deposits, so we don't have like the full amount. So
they've paid deposits, but they haven't paid like their like recurring payments and stuff like that to pay off the remainder of the program. As well as you said also that you have some people that are outstanding, like, I want to do this, I'm just kind of saving the money up and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Man, it's incredible like how much of a change can occur just in like a 30-60 day period. It's like night and day.
It's kind of funny because, when we first started talking about the marketing and anything, she asked me, do you think this is a good idea? And I was like, no, I'm against it. And, and now I'm like, yeah, let's go. Yeah.
let's get more. Let's put more money in. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because the first time we talked, you gave me the numbers, and I'll be honest, my eyes bulged. I was like,
we were like, oh my gosh, that is a lot more than we thought.
And then I just so happened from one of the Facebook ads that I had run, happened to get the one client that I had in like 3 months. And she paid me on the spot, literally the day that we had talked. And I was like, well, now we could, like, that's I still don't get paid, but like, we could actually turn this around and try. And oh my gosh, it's paid off. It was definitely.
That's amazing. Yeah. No, I remember that. I remember when we first started working together, you kind of gave me a number that you were like, I can't pay more than this. And, we'll go into that in a second here, because I think that really ties nicely into like, we're going to talk about sales and stuff like that. But then, it was like, whatever you want to call it, like the universe, like an act of God, right? Like all of a sudden you got like a check coming in. You're like, hey, we can get started doing this. But I'd love to kind of hear about like your sales process now. Cause like you were saying before, the way you were doing it before was just like your traditional dog trainer, hey, how much do you charge? Okay, these are my programs. This is what we do. This is how much we charge. And then you were probably at that point getting a lot of people that were tire kickers, right? Who just like weren't buying, right? So we've changed a couple of things, and now you're doing in-person consultations. And so how has that been going for you since you switched that up?
Yeah. So, I mean, initially before, again, most of what I was doing was relying on Facebook or like people I met at Lowe's and handed a business card to, right? People who haven't really seen anything that I can do. And if they have, it's been a Facebook video, right? Like there's not much. And that's only if they went digging. A lot of these people on Facebook too are just like, oh, that looks cool. How much is that? Right.
Yeah.
And I was kind of falling into that trap of just like, oh, well, it's this much. And then sticker shock. They were like, yeah, no. Right.
Yeah. And so that was like over like a DM conversation or over a phone call? Okay.
Yeah, pretty much all like text conversations. Maybe it was like laziness on my part, but yeah, I was just like, well, they're probably not going to buy, so who cares, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
but then I started changing it based on y'all's recommendation to try to get them on the phone, right? Make like a personal connection, find some way to relate to this person, and then build from there. And if you can relate to them on the phone, you can get them to come in person. If they come in person, they see your facility, they see you, they understand how you work with dogs, they see you with their dog. Yeah. So I've had a lot more luck with, like, I always felt that it was more honest to just put the prices out there, but it's not that we're being dishonest so much as just like, well, here's why you should buy, because look at what your dog's doing with me, or look what my dog can do, or look what this client that's been here for 2 weeks can do. So it's been kind of it's kind of the same as like watching your videos, right? Like I was like, can they actually help us for this amount of money? You know, if you didn't have Facebook videos and you didn't have recommendations, I'd be like, let's go find, you know, the like person behind Walmart who can do it for $100, right? You know, like,
but the other thing is like, I love that you guys have both like just gone headfirst into really buying into kind of like what we were preaching a little bit, because I know it's not easy, you know, to be like, I've been doing things a certain way for a long time, and now who's this person coming along telling me that I need to do it differently, requiring more work, more effort for me and stuff like that. But it's like the proof is in the pudding, and the results are really all that matter, you know? And so there's the age-old saying in sales that people buy from people that they know, like, and trust, right? So you don't know somebody who you just see their Facebook ad and you're sending them a DM, and they've, at that point, if somebody is just asking you for pricing over like a Facebook ad or a DM or something like that, they've made it totally like they're purchasing a commodity, like they're buying a barrel of oil, and it's like you're selling it for $100 and the person down the street selling it for $90. It's the same barrel of oil. Dog training's not like that, right? It's a very personal thing. People want to know who they're working with, who they're spending time with, who their fur baby is going to live with for 4 weeks, right? For a board and train. And so they want to make sure that they really know who this person is. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that just by, you know, taking the time to talk with them over a call and then meet with them face to face, I mean, as you guys have seen, it makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. Like, so even on that personal note of like having a personal relationship with the client, like even the people who don't buy from us, like now we've gotten like 2 or 3 different calls from possible clients after an evaluation. They get the price, they go home, they talk to their significant other, and they'll even call us back and be like, hey, yeah, that's a little bit more than we originally planned on. I don't think we can do it. But like, there's just the fact that they actually call back and tell you in person, you know, over the phone, it's like, hey, yeah, we're not going to go ahead and go forward.
Yeah, like they don't ghost out as much as they used to. Yeah. We are taking the time to be personal with them. Yeah. Which, as a socially anxious person, that was a struggle, you know, like, oh, I have to talk to this person.
No, but I give you a lot of credit, because I think a lot of times people, it's a really scary thing when you're like, okay, I got to either drive to this person's house or have them come to my house, and I got to stand in front of them for 45 minutes to an hour having a full-blown conversation. A lot of people are very introverted, and, you know, it can be really draining. You know, it sounds kind of silly, but it's like by the end of it, it takes a lot of energy to have that conversation with somebody. And they're going to ask you sometimes like difficult questions, and they're going to kind of question your prices and stuff like that. And the easier way out is just to not do it at all, and just say, I'm just going to put my pricing on my website. I'm just going to text them my pricing. And if they don't get back to me, it's like, then I can at least I can just blame it on the market. Oh, the market's no good. Everyone's tire kickers. But the truth is like, there's people that want to buy dog training, and they're going to buy dog training from somebody. So we just need to find the best way to make that us, you know? And so, yeah, so just walk me through like how you typically, because I want to see if we can give a lot of value here to anybody who's listening. How do you typically conduct your consultations? Like when somebody comes in, what are the points you're trying to touch on? What are you trying to, what are you trying to do during that time with them?
Yeah, so most of the time I'm trying to figure out how they live life with their dog. And then one of the questions I literally ask them is like, if you could have your perfect dog, what do you need to change to make it that way? And that's usually when people kind of open up and they're like, well, you know, we're pregnant and we're going to have a baby, and this dog can't be jumping or being overly sniffy or not have a leave it or not do this, right? So then you find the root cause, and then, you're able to use that and be like, okay, well, yeah, exactly. We have, little cousins and stuff like that we can bring over. We can practice around kids. Like, we can make that dream a reality, right? Or a lot of times I'll even bring up my dog, because, my German Shepherd, he was very aggressive, right? And so then I bring him out and I tell his story, and I'm like, yeah, so this one was exactly like your dog. This one was psychotic too. And look, he can be chilling right beside your psychotic dog and not worry, and then I'm honest with him. I'm like, yeah, it takes time. Yeah, it sucks. Like, especially with aggression, yeah, it sucks. And I'm downright forward with him. I'm like, if you don't do the work, this isn't going to work, and I think a lot of people appreciate that honesty, where I literally straight up tell them, I'm like, first of all, your dog's a jerk. And second of all, this is going to suck, but we can do it,
exactly.
So, yeah.
No, I think that being honest and upfront with people, it's more like genuine. If you tell people like, oh yeah, it's not a problem at all, like you have a dog that's bit 5 people, like, in a week we're going to have this like straightened out, like I think a lot of people are going to be able to kind of sense that that's not reality, and they're going to be like, am I just buying into, am I buying snake oil here, and so I think by walking the fine line, by not telling people you're going to need to completely uproot your life and change everything and your life is going to suck from here on out, like obviously we don't want to tell them that, but I think by being like, hey, this is going to require work from you, we're going to need to put some structure in place, we're going to need to change a couple of things, most people are going to go, okay, that makes sense. I don't know what I'm doing, I've never trained a dog before, like of course I need to change some things because what I'm doing right now is not working, clearly. The
funny thing is, we actually have a lesson with a client today that's exactly what he told her was, I've never owned a dog before. I don't know what I'm doing. I need your help.
Yeah. He's like, why did I get a German Shepherd? What am I doing?
Yeah. I know
everything I tell you and you'll be fine,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so let's talk about this. I'd love to kind of talk about like the future here for you guys and like kind of what you guys have planned. So, when we first started working together, the goal was really just like, let's just make some money, right? Let's just get some sales in and stuff like that. But in such a short amount of time, you guys have been able to become super profitable, have all these clients signed up with you guys. James, you've been able to like leave your job. So like, what do you guys have planned for the future? Do you have anything that you really want to see and like do over the next couple of months, next couple of years?
Yeah. So right now the big plan is a business vehicle, just because I cannot carry that many dogs in my car. So we end up taking 2-3 trips or 2 cars just to take out, 4 or 5 dogs at a time.
Yeah.
Some sort of like van transit, something for all of the clients so we can be more efficient, because that's honestly what it's coming down to, is efficiency in time. Because right now I can do, 5-6 dogs at a time, all in-house training, all the crate training, all the puppies, everything. And it comes down, that's why he had to join me, was I simply don't have time to do consultations and phone calls and emails.
Exactly.
And keeping track of the money and doing everything else all the time, plus, all of our dogs are crated. We don't have like the concrete kennels, and I don't plan to, because, it ruins potty training in my opinion. So with that, then we have dogs that have to go out in the middle of the night. We have dogs that have to get up in the morning. So it's just been honestly time, or even hiring a kennel tech probably would be like the next bit, is like, hey,
and that's
let
actually
these dogs
what we
out.
talked about too, was what's better, me going ahead and joining the business or hiring a kennel tech to then fill that position. And profitability wise, it's better for me to go ahead and join. I'd make more money here than I would staying at my old job.
Yeah.
So that was a big bonus. We are looking into seminars and such for me to grow my knowledge and for you to develop. Well, for me to
That's fantastic.
her to grow her knowledge.
That's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that a really good hire to make is a kennel tech, because that, not to be too harsh with like the kennel tech position or anything like that, but that's a position a lot of people start out in and then they kind of grow into a dog trainer role, right? And I think that it's not like a highly skilled position in the sense that like you can teach somebody how to do this like in a fairly short amount of time, and then they get the benefit of being able to like work for your company and come up through the ranks and like learn more and more if they wanted to do that. But I think that that's definitely a really smart hire to make, because it kind of allows you to focus on the higher leverage activities in your business, like actually training dogs and really more importantly, sales and marketing and stuff like that, right? And that, because that's the engine that keeps your business running, instead of the lower leverage activities like cleaning and rotating dogs and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that that's a really smart thing to do, because James, I mean, you could come in and you could start doing sales pretty quickly too, right? Or you could start answering calls and setting appointments.
That's actually one of the things we've been talking about, is changing the way we do evaluations, whether it's that I take over evaluations, she teaches me how to do the sale and all that. And then I start doing evaluations. I evaluate the dogs. I figure out their plans and such for them. Or we change it to a more, that way it's less time constraining, is so we can work a board and trained dog as well as doing an evaluation. That way, the evaluation is kind of taught more because they get to see us working with a dog that is not ours. That way, it furthers the sale a little bit, I guess.
Yeah.
So you're talking about like doing like some demoing with their dog, you mean?
Yeah, demoing with a client dog.
Yeah, no, I think I'm glad we're talking about this because I think that's a super powerful thing. Abigail, you were talking about this before. Like you can pull out your dog, right, and be like, hey, look how good my dog is. But I think that's powerful. But I do think that sometimes people can just write that off and go like, well, that's your dog and you're a professional dog trainer. So of course they're well behaved, right? But when they see their dog, right, and they're working with you and their dog in a 5-minute period is like loose leash walking or responding in a way that they've never seen before, that's very different. And they start looking at that going like, I've never seen my dog behave this way. This is a dog that drives me crazy on a daily basis. And now within 5 minutes, they're like an angel. What is the difference here? That's a really powerful sales pitch. So yeah, I think that's really smart. What is it that you guys typically focus on when you do some demoing? Like what's your go-to like quick win you try and get?
So if it's an off-leash dog, normally I like to kind of display the difference between on-leash and off-leash, because sometimes basically the programs look the same. It's just how much distance or duration you want with the stay, typically, right? Unless it's an aggression case. So a lot of times, I'll give the on-leash program and the price and the off-leash program and the price. And they're like, well, what's the big difference? Why should I care? Can't the on-leash dog do all of the things the off-leash dog can do? And then that's when we'd bring out a dog and be like, well, this is off-leash obedience. And you leave them 50 feet back there and you're like, see, that's what that is, right?
Right.
As opposed to the on-leash dog, who's a little bit less savvy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I've had a lot of success with just showing people the difference. And then they're like, oh, wow, so for only this much more, we can have that.
Yeah. Cool. That's a really good way of saying it. Yeah. And I think that a lot of times dog trainers kind of struggle with the practicality and the everyday life for somebody of having why have an off-leash trained dog? And I think the easiest way to kind of, overcome that objection is pretty much just by telling people that your dog in most cases is off leash, like 99% of the time. It's on leash, like, if you're living in a suburban area twice a day for 15 minutes while you walk it around the block. Right. And so having an off leash trained dog is really the best value, especially because you're going to have this dog for, hopefully another 12, 15 years in some cases. So like, how do you guys do you ever get that objection? It sounds like you do a little bit and you kind of can overcome that by just showing them really. Do you feel like just giving them like the actual proof and showing them, your dog is really the best way to overcome that?
Yeah. So, I mean, sometimes, we do get like a little bit of kickback, like, well, what's the point? Right. And a lot of times I do exactly like you said, point out that like, well, do you want to keep a leash on your dog in the house for the next 5 to 6 months until this literally becomes such ingrained habit that you don't have to worry about it? Especially with these dogs that come in at 6 months old, right? They still got puberty to go through. They still got all of these things to go through. And the moment that owner takes off that leash and stops reinforcing all of the behaviors that they've learned, they're going to fall right back. So I usually use that like, okay, well, this is what you're going to have to do. This is on leash obedience, which means your dog knows this within the range of about 15 feet on a long line, right?
Yeah.
Like, you need to be able to upkeep this. And if you don't have a leash on your dog, what are you going to do? Go snatch them up and pick them up? That's not right. And a lot of times people are like, oh, yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah, exactly. That's really well said. Well, listen, I mean, so, I think the most important thing that I'd really love to kind of talk about with you guys is, just the fact that it seems like, so James, you said this before, within like, prior to working with us, there was like a period of time, like for the previous year almost, right, where you guys had made like $13,000, like the entire year. Do I have that right?
Yeah.
And then, so now in the last like 60 days, you guys have made that plus some. And so we've almost effectively, like when all these other payments come in, like pretty much like doubled in a 60-day period, like what you guys had made in like the previous calendar year. So, I mean, how does that make you guys feel? Is that like mind blowing to you?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's awesome.
Wild. It opens a lot of doors.
Yeah. It's awesome to not be stressed, because I'll be honest, I was not the nicest person to be around when we were stressed about money, because he's like, well, hey, let's go to Wendy's. And I'm like, we should probably not, you know,
Yeah,
like, let's go
yeah.
eat ramen. Let's go do something else. You know, it's like, I wasn't a great person to be around when we were super stressed financially about money. Right.
Oh
So
man,
now
yeah,
being able to look in the business account and I'm like, it's all right. We've at least got this many
yeah,
months of pay. We can go to Wendy's, you know,
yeah, exactly.
just being able
No,
to see it out a little bit.
So we can live life comfortably while also saving enough
Yeah.
to further us in the future. You know,
yeah.
it's a lot better. It's a lot better of a financial situation than it was prior.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the first thing I would say is just wait, you know, because like this is like the first like 30 to 60 days.
Yeah.
So like it's only going to keep like just surpassing expectations, you know. So that's number one. But yeah, just to talk about that for a second. I mean, that's something that I've experienced in my life as well, where you have to, you can literally be in a point where you're like, I can't go and get fast food. I can't even like afford to do that. I have to make the decision between that and going home. And now it's like, I can just stop off and it's like, okay, first off, you can write it off as a business expense. And second off, you know, it's like, it's just nice to not have to worry about every little thing, right? You can kind of live your life, still being smart, still being conservative with your money, but just not having to worry about like, am I going to, you know, end up in the red this month just because I wanted to go and eat out with my significant other, you know?
Yeah, it's nice not to have to penny pinch
Exactly.
every day,
Yeah.
every hour.
Yeah, because it was literally us calculating, all right, like, I've got a lesson, it's going to take this much gas. You know, what else can we afford?
There was a very
right? Like,
short point, but yeah, we
there
definitely...
was a good couple of months where like I didn't move my car. I did as much as I could to not touch my car, because where's the gas money going to come from? Because, you know, the business pays for gas because that's what we use for everything, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was rough there for a bit, and now we're able to be like, whew, like, we're making decent amount for us to survive and be livable, as well as like, in what time would we even have to cook? Like, if it's either Wendy's or 30-second ramen, right? Like, you know, we don't have time for that.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. Like, I'd love to kind of like put you guys back in like the shoes that you were in when we're kind of talking about like, you know, struggling like a little bit financially and stuff like that. Cause I try and do that with myself, right? Where it's like, because I think that as your business grows, it's very easy to kind of reach these next milestones and just go like, yep, okay, cool. But now I'm on to the next one, and not really reflect on how far you've come. And, you know, I just think that it's pretty amazing, again, like how quickly this can all happen. But like, let me ask you this. What would be the advice for somebody that's in your shoes now, like where you were a couple months ago?
Honestly, it's funny because I just recommended 2 different people to marketing, because they're like, hey, I'm going to start my own business. What's the number one thing you got to do? I was like, marketing. Like, I don't care what else you do. I don't care if you have dog leashes and e-collars, market first, right? Like, get the actual clients coming before you start anything else. Cause that was my problem, is I was relying on Facebook ads, which had like a 2% return value, right? Like, not very much. Or literally just going out and doing groundwork and going to Lowe's and being like, hey, look, this dog thing, right? And there's only like a little bit of value in that, you know, we're going to events and hoping for the best. But yeah, I mean, like you told us, is people that are going online looking for dog training are looking for dog training. People on Facebook are just like, oh, this is fun.
Yeah, I mean,
and they don't really
it's like going through
want
Facebook Marketplace. It's easy to press that button that says hi, as it's still available.
Even
that's so James, that's so true, man, because I've done that so many times. You're like, and then they DM you back like, yeah, do you want the couch? And you're like, I didn't even really care about the couch.
Yeah, it's like, I didn't really care, I just kind of wanted to know. You're like,
the button was right there, so I just pressed it.
It's so easy, you know, it's so easy to go ahead and ask about things that you kind of sort of think you might want, but not for that price.
And then because once it becomes serious and it's like, yeah, we can definitely help you with dog training, it's $4,000 or whatever it is, they're like, yeah, no, that's not what I'm looking for. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the clear difference between different forms of marketing. You know, there's hot leads, warm leads, and then there's cold leads. And I think that, you know, Facebook, depending on how you do it, can kind of be somewhere in between, like a cold to warm lead. Just because you're disrupting people, right? Like, they are on Facebook for a different reason, and they just so happen to see your offer and they're like, okay, cool, whatever, like free dog training lesson or dog training consultation or $25 lesson, I'll opt into that, whatever. But then when it comes time to follow up with that person, Same thing with the person at Lowe's. Like they might be interested and like, oh, this is really cool. But then there's, I always say this, there's like the law of diminishing intent, right? They have the intention of to do something, but every second, day, hour that goes by, they're just kind of like, you know what? I'm kind of becoming, more lukewarm on it. I just don't really feel like I need it and stuff like that. Whereas with Google, they're coming to you, they're looking for dog trainer, like Shreveport or dog trainer near me or whatever it may be. And as long as you can answer that call, capitalize on and say, hey, let's set up a consultation. Let's set up a time to talk. It's a really high likelihood that that's going to be a really high quality lead.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, y'all's program that like does all the automation has been an absolute lifesaver. Good. Because even though, like you can ask him, I jump every time the phone rings. I'm like, okay, I got to get that. I got to answer that. Right.
I love it.
But then at the same time, like when we are having like, okay, it's 8 p.m. Can we not anymore? And the phone rings, I can look over and be like, it's okay. Alfred's got it. Right. Like, like I'm just like, it's okay. Someone's going to answer it and it's not me. Right. The computer will answer it. So it is kind of nice, or to be training a dog or like, especially aggressive dogs. Right. And I've got my hand in, like this situation and I'm looking at my phone and I'm just like, I can't. And it's great because instead of going to voicemail, there's like that text follow-up. It has honestly been amazing.
That's fantastic. I love to hear that. Yeah. No, it is a game changer. And that's exactly why we invested all this like time and effort into it, because that was a real pain point that I saw for a lot of people was like calls would come in and they're busy. And, I'm the same way. Like if my phone rings, I'm like, I'm doing everything I can to get to that call. That's what I would encourage everybody to do. But sometimes it just straight up cannot happen. And if you have something in place that just keeps that person on the line, text them and says like, hey, how can we help you? Tell me more about your dog. When are you free to talk? All that stuff. It just lets them know that there's somebody there behind that number that's actually going to be able to help them. And so, tell me a little bit more about that. Like, have you been able to kind of go through Alfred and like help manage your leads that way to help you guys staying organized and stuff like that?
Yeah. So it's amazingly, what's the word? Customizable, right? Yeah. Because I was talking to Tara and there was one thing that like mildly annoyed me where I would get an email leads, right? And normally like 99% of the time I am really fast on the draw. I hear the email, like I've got my AirPods in, I hear the email, I'm like, bam. And I've had that person texted back in 30 seconds. Yep. And then, the call from Alfred comes in and then Alfred texts them. And then it's like, okay, they just got 2 different messages that are basically the same from 2 different numbers. And I've had several people go like, okay, what is this? It feels very spammy, right?
Yeah. For sure.
And so I told her about that. I was like, is there any way to fix it? Or should I just wait for the system to do its thing and not be fast on the draw? Right. Yeah. And so she was able to like work it around and fix it so that emails basically, that's my job. Like that's what I do. I craft like a personal message with their dog's name. Hey, this is what we're going to do. And so then in aspects like that, like I was able to customize it and be like, this works better for me. I'm a little bit faster, right?
Yeah.
So that was
it's pretty amazing that you're faster than like a computer automated system.
I'm just like
I was gonna say like you have the opposite problem of like what most people have, which is like they're not responding to the lead. So I love that about it too. Like every business is different. Everyone kind of runs their business differently, and so that's part of the reason why we built it this way, was so that everyone can kind of do it their way, and it's not so much like, hey, this is how Top Dog Advertising recommends you do it, and you have to do it this way. We obviously like have like kind of a template in place that works, but if you feel like, hey, this is better for us, I love that you guys are customizing it, because that just makes it work even better. Yeah. Well, listen, let's wrap it up for here today. I don't want to keep you guys too long. I'm sure you're busy, but yeah, let me ask you this, like any like words of wisdom that you would like to leave anybody with, or anything that you feel like, has been like really helpful to you, like over the past couple of months, that you feel like you could just like pass on to somebody else?
As the skeptic of the two of us, do the marketing.
Yeah, do the marketing. Eat it for a little bit, like eat the price for a bit and actually do it.
Yeah.
It's very worth it. And then also have confidence in yourself. Because, when I wasn't making sales, I hadn't been paid in months, it got to the point that I was almost dreading evaluations, because in my brain, I was like, it's going to be a no. Like, why am I here? It's going to be a no. I'm going to waste an hour here when I could have been doing this, or I could have been doing that. And I literally, right before we met y'all, I was literally looking for another job. I'd put in like 4 other applications. I was like, forget dog training. This is never going to work. The confidence was low. So it's kind of just like, do the marketing, keep your confidence, whatever you need to do, whether it's going and playing with your own dog and forgetting all of the stressful things for a bit, like
take them out for a restaurant or to a restaurant.
Yeah. Like just take yourself a second, build up your confidence, because when you go confident into an evaluation, they see it, rather than being like, So these are my prices.
It's kind of funny because
Yeah.
the thing that she did to help her confidence actually was starting dock diving with one of our dogs. And, you know, that gave her, you know, that fun time to go ahead and just
Yeah,
space
like
it out
to feel like you're
longer.
good at something. Because when you don't make sales for a long time, it feels sucky, right? Like you feel like a failure. You're like, okay, am I even good with dogs? Like, what is happening?
Man.
You know, and then especially when you're working with aggressive dogs, not everything is in a straight line, right? Not everything makes linear progress. And so then when you're working with that, and then the only little clients that you do have are the really annoying ones, right? Like you don't get to work with the fun puppies. You're working with like the mean ones or the bad ones that just like bite the crap out of you, right? And so you're working with all these dogs, you feel like a failure. You're not succeeding with the ones that you want to succeed. So yeah, like find something fun. Don't always like I said, he's got to throw my phone across the room sometimes and just be like, hey, not right now. We have to chill, right? Yeah, like dock diving. Do something fun with your dog too. Don't leave out your dogs and get wrapped up in business.
No, I think that is so insightful and helpful, because I think that we've all been here in our life at one point or another where you feel so defeated and beat down. And it can be by really so many different things in your business or in your life, including your business. And I mean, what I always recommend is just start by trying to get one win, you know, and that's kind of what you're describing. It's like, you know, go do something that you love doing, dock diving or working with your own dogs and stuff like that. Because I mean, it's like there's a negative feedback loop and then there's a positive feedback loop, you know, and what you guys were on before was like a negative feedback loop where it's like everything is compounding, you know, you get a no, and then you're like, oh, I'm starting to feel like this doesn't work. And then all of a sudden that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where it's like, you're not really excited to give people your pricing and give people, you know, like all about your programs and stuff like that. So you just are doing it in a way that's not going to work. And then now you kind of have found this new path that you can go down where it's like, it's getting better and it compounds and it gets better and better. And you're getting like residual payments built up and you're getting deposits and stuff like that. And so, I think that's great advice. I was just talking to another client about this, and as silly as this sounds, like when I'm having one of those days where I just feel like nothing is working, I'm like, how can I hit the reset button? And sometimes that's literally just by organizing the stack of papers that's on my desk. And or like going over to my couch and fluffing a single pillow just to get some sort of momentum, you know, get one win so that way I can just build on to the next one. So I think that's awesome. So listen, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to meet with me today. I'm so happy for you, so excited for both of you guys. James, again, congrats, man, on leaving the job. That's big time stuff. And so we'll have to do another check-in call in a couple months, see where you guys are at. But we'll talk again very soon. Okay.
Heck yeah.
All right, guys. Appreciate you.
Take it easy.